Good afternoon. It is Tuesday, March 21st, 2017. I am Mark Oakton. Welcome to our Technology Tuesday webinar. Today we're talking about how to use blogging in education. So keep calm and blog on. I'm Mark Oakton, the coordinator with Instructional Design and Professional Learning Division. With me today I have our district resident expert on all things related to blogging, Mark Thomas. You may access him through Interact, through the NVCCSD account emails. You can find his blog at supertechtalk.blogspot.com, or find him on Twitter at supertechtalk. And he is a wealth of knowledge and information regarding blogging, and I'm grateful that he has been able to join us today. Mark, do you want to say hi?
Buddy, thanks for that introduction. I am far from an expert. I know a lot, but I don't profess to be a master of anything at all.
He's always modest. All right, today what we're going to look at is, and I'm going to turn it over to Mark Thomas to talk about why we blog, what a blog is, and how we can use blogging both in our classrooms and as professionals. And without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Good afternoon, everybody. All right, first of all, let's start with obviously what is a blog. A blog is short a combination of web and log. Back in the early days of the internet, people would keep journals or diaries. Of course, we used to keep journals and diaries in a paper book or notebook or something like that. And at some point, with the advent of the internet, people started putting those same diary or journal entries up on a web page and would share that web page with others, and thus had an audience to their writing, and thus blogging was born. People would read each other's journal entries and comment on them and share their own thoughts and start conversations, and that's how blogging came about as a medium of expressing yourself. So a blog is not necessarily a question and answer type of a format like we think of Google Classroom or Edmodo. It's more of a place where individuals can share their thoughts, share their passions, share things that interest them, um, any topic that they want to write about, just get their personal thoughts and passions out there for others to share, and share them definitely with others. That's why it's out on the internet, in order to share and collaborate with others, to read what other people have and to have them read you and start conversations and things like that. So that's kind of a nutshell of what a blog is. Don't think of it as something like another platform like Google Classroom or Edmodo, where typically we have students turn in assignments or we ask them a question and have them respond back in a kind of a discussion format. It's blog is more for free thinking, for expressing and kind of like an online journal type of a format. So why, with all that, why would you want to blog? Why would you want to have your students blog? Well, in a nutshell, your standards tell you you're supposed to. Now, they don't mention the word blogging in the standards, but with this example from the writing standards, this is a grade 6, the wording is from grade 6 writing standard. It says, with some guidance and support from adults, use technology, including the internet, to produce and publish writing as well as to interact and collaborate with others. And if you follow that exact same standard all the way down to kindergarten and all the way back up to 12th grade, you would see pretty much the same wording. So all students should be using the internet at some point to publish their writing, and a blog is a perfect format for doing that. But besides the boring standards, I find that there's better reasons for blogging. One of my most favorite reasons for blogging is the authentic audience. Now, think about the typical writing assignment that a typical teacher gives to students. We tell them you have to write about this topic, and you have to have 5 paragraphs, and the first paragraph has to be an introduction, and the second paragraph has to do this, and the third paragraph has to do this. And then when we have all of that writing done, we take several days to write it out. Kids put a lot of effort into it. We edit it, we revise it, we peer conference, we do all that fun stuff. And then the final thing they write out in nice, perfect penmanship on a piece of paper. And then what do we do with it? We stick it on a bulletin board. And who's going to see it? Nobody. Other classes, perhaps walking by, might see it, but they're not going to be able to stop and actually read it. The teacher is going to read it, but that's about it. They'll give a grade on it. But really, why did the student write? They didn't have an audience, just the teacher and maybe the other class if it's one of those type of assignments that you share out. But when you post up on a blog, when you take that same writing piece, and you put it on a blog out on the internet for the world to see, you've now gained a much broader audience for that student and for their writing. You can have the other students can then in the same class can actually read that and offer some comments, not just those that they peer conference with, but the entire class. You can share that writing with other classes. You can share it with somebody clear around the world, with grandma who lives in New Jersey or something like that. She can see the writing, leave a comment, leave some feedback, and then you've opened up the world to that student. And so then they have a broader purpose for writing. They realize that others are going to read it, so they need to be more careful on how they word things. They need to use that proper punctuation, that actually somebody is interested in what they have to say. So to me, the biggest reason why anybody would want to have their students blogging is simply for that authentic audience, who they can have read their writing. Another good reason is that it gives students voice. There are students that are shy in our class. There are students who maybe handwriting isn't their forte. They struggle with that. They don't have good penmanship or for whatever reason. But when we have them blog, when we have them type it up electronically on their blog, you've now given every student a voice. Every student has something, and think about it, every student has something interesting to say. They've all got stories. They've all got things that interest them, things that they want to share from home that's happening to their lives. And when you give them a blog and a forum to do that, you then hear from every student. Also, blogging, because it's out on the internet and because of the format of blogging, it allows for an increased dialogue and collaboration. So we typically have students share their, peer share their writing piece with a few students to get some feedback and so on. But again, putting it out on the internet where more people can see it, it allows for that back and forth collaboration, that back and forth dialogue. A student can respond to somebody's writing and share something that happened to them in their life that was related, or share an interest or expand on the information. And so you've got that whole collaboration, that discussion going on through the blogging format. Blogging is also a good way for a digital portfolio. I'll show you an example of a blog in a few minutes where a student started her writing clear back in 2013 on her blog, a high school student. And so she's still blogging through this year, so she can see all of her writing and how it's progressed over the years. So it's a great place to show their digital portfolio. The students are out on the internet. By blogging, you can also teach them digital citizenship, how to make their presence out on the web, to make that digital footprint in a safe environment where you can show them the pros and cons and proper etiquette for being out there, for writing and for expressing yourself. And so hopefully by using blogging, they can see the benefits and they can see proper netiquette, if you will, for how to behave on the internet. So, getting started with blogging, some things to keep in mind before you start blogging with your class. You need, first of all, to start with your basic expectations from your students, because students today, they're used to texting on a phone, so they know all the texting lingo and formatting and wording and stuff, and so you need to talk about your expectations, that the blogging, if you allow them to write or post anything on the blog, as long as you see it first, approve of it first. Do you have expectations in terms of how they talk to one another? Do you have expectations in how they leave comments, whether they can nitpick about punctuation or spelling, or whether the conversation has to be focused towards the content of the blog? Those kinds of expectations. You also need to make sure your kids are out on the internet, so you need to make sure parents are on board and they are aware of what's going on. In fact, including the parents in the whole blogging experience is an awesome way to, again, get that authentic audience for your students, and to let them see that others can and will read their writing and can leave comments. You need to think about your management. I'll show you some of the blogging platforms. We'll take a quick tour of some of those and show you some of the management where you can be in control. You can approve of the blog first before it gets published out there for the world, so you know that everything's kosher. And just be aware that you need to be on top of it as well. As for legal requirements, again, since the students are using computers and are out on the internet, they do need to have a signed AUP on file. So you need to check your Infinite Campus records for your class and make sure that that's signed and filled out. Otherwise, they shouldn't be really using the computer at all for anything. And of course, be ready to address any parent concerns. Parents may not be comfortable with students publishing out there, so you may be able to show them how it's a safe environment, how their name and personal information is not out there, but just be ready to address those kinds of concerns. All right, so let's take a look at a few examples that I have of actual classrooms that have the students and the teachers blogging. So I'm going to do a screen share. Okay, so this is a 5th grade class actually here at my school here at Brunner. They just started up a few months ago doing their blog. So this is one that's done on KidBlog. And I'll show you a few features on it. We'll take a look at some of the writing that they have. But you can see the main part of the screen are these cards going across, and you can see the different students, the topic that they've chosen to write about, a picture that they included. You can see the date and time that they posted, so you can actually see some of these kids are posting at night. They love doing the writing and posting on their blog, so they've done this at night. On the far right are students' names from the class. So if I wanted to see all of Derek's blog posts, I could click on Derek's name and it would take me to a screen to show me just his writing. Right now I'm seeing the whole entire class. And this is all features that I'm showing you, features of a blogging platform and what makes them really unique on the web. Scrolling down a little bit more, I have some links. This teacher has included a link to her co-workers class, so 2 5th grade classes that are blogging. So her students, Miss Gilchrist's students, can click on Miss Dodge's link and read that class's posts and leave some comments on there and start discussions that way as well. She's also got a link to my class's blog and to a 100-word challenge that she's doing with her kids. And she scrolled down a little farther. She's got some other things here on the side talking to show the kids about how they comment, to keep in mind what they say. So let's take a look at a few of these blog posts. I'm going to go back up to the top and click on this first one, my pet iguana and my pet dog. So this is a 5th grade student, and you can see all that she had to say on her blog. Not a whole lot of formatting in terms of paragraphs, but I see she's got her capitals and punctuation, and tells all about her pet iguana and her pet dog. Quite interesting read. That's a lot of writing for 5th grade, so that's a really good job. And as we scroll down a little bit, we see some of the students. So Mariana is the author of this blog post, and so some students commented back, and so she's replied back to those comments, and they've got a conversation going, which is really cool. So now she knows somebody else is reading her blogging, her writing. It's not just her and just her teacher. So this is an example of a 5th grade class. If I look at this, I can see some other things that they've talked about. I got an iPhone as a gift for my birthday, had 4 comments on it. Some of these don't have any comments. All sorts of different topics that they've been writing about. Some of these I know the teacher. Some of these she has guided them on. A lot of these she's said that you're free to write about pretty much any topic you want as long as it's a school-safe topic, and they've run with it. So that's a 5th grade class. The next one is a class in Canada. I follow this blog. She's one of the first teachers that I've heard about with blogging when I was exploring the idea. And she teaches 6-year-olds in a class in Canada. And so this main page is her page. So she, the teacher, posts on this, and it's open to the parents. Her audience is the parents of her class. And so she's got pictures of what they do in class throughout the day. Every couple of days, she posts something new to show. They had an assembly, showed about reading. And if I scroll back up, again on the side, she's got her students, and each of her students, keep in mind, this is 6-year-olds, each of her students have their own blog page. So going from the class page, I'm going to click on Brandon's Learning. Oh, Brandon doesn't have any. Here we go. So this one is Adam. Rather than writing, they took a picture of some activities that they did. So this is his activity that the teacher took a picture of and put on his blog to show his work. So again, kids can go home now and show mom and dad or whoever. There's even a video here that he created. They can go home and show family members, and anybody can read it and check out what work he's been doing in class. In fact, if I go back to the main page and I scroll down just a little bit, she has on the sidebar of her blog this information here that shows who's visited this class blog. So she's had visitors from, well, if I look at the map, down to Australia, New Zealand, across Asia and China, Europe, down in South America, and she's got a little counter here from the different countries to show who's been checking out this class blog. So imagine that. The audience, these kids know that when they put something up there, or when the teacher shares something, it's being shared literally around the world. How exciting would that be for a student to know that for their writing? So those are that. I show you this 6-year-old one to show that pretty much anybody can blog. If a class of 6-year-olds can blog, your class can blog as well. Another source that I like to go to show some examples, if you want, if you were just to look up or Google search for EduBlog Awards. Every year, the blogging platform EduBlog has a kind of a contest, a voting system, if you will, for the best blogs out there. And so these are the 2015 winners. So they've got the best class blog, best student blog, best teacher blog, and so on. But I wanted to show you an example of a best student blog. So this is voted the best student blog for 2015, and I've already pulled it up. Simply Aubrey, Ramblings of a Country Girl. So she last posted on the 15th about her promposal, going to prom, and she wrote all about that experience in finding the dress and what they did and all that fun stuff involved with proms. Her next post is her thoughts about Donald Trump. She's a Donald Trump supporter, and she wrote all of this about why she thinks Donald Trump should be president and will make a good president. Look at all that writing. That is awesome. And if you're looking at the right side, this is the blog that I mentioned earlier. Her first blog post was in June 2013. So she's been blogging for nearly 2 years now. Excuse me, for a lot longer than that. 4 years now. Nearly 4 years now. And again, looking at her, I saw a map. There it is. You can see, again, she has an audience literally from around the world. Lots of people have been reading her blog. So is she wanting to write more? Yes, because she knows people are reading. She knows that somebody other than her teacher is actually reading and interested in what she has to say. So those are some examples of blogs, and I would highly recommend, again, go back after this webinar, pull up Google, do a search for EduBlog Awards, and you can scroll through this list and check out some other ideas of blogs and get some ideas and some examples from all grade levels, from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade. So let me get back into our presentation. Okay, so let's talk about, with those examples, and I'm hoping you're excited to start blogging now. So what do you use to do it with? Well, there's some blogging platforms out there, and I'm just going to highlight 3 of them. There's others, but these are the ones that I like to work with. And they each have their pros and cons. Some of them do cost, some of them are free, Some of them are easy to manage with students, some not so easy, but we're going to run through each one of them. And I'll talk about the pros and cons, and then I'll run you through a quick tutorial of how to use each one of those. So let's start with EduBlogs, and that's the blog platform that I happen to be using this year with my class. It is free. Your students can have individual blogs. You can set up individual classes. If you're a secondary teacher, you can have different blogs for different classes. But can sign up for free. You, the teacher, can sign up for free. And each have their own individual blog. There is a premium feature that costs $40 per year. So you renew that annually. And that gives you, the teacher, some classroom management. And I'll talk about that in just a sec. What I like about EduBlogs is that it allows for more student autonomy. So each student has control over the look and feel of their blog, the background, the theme that goes with it, if you will. They each get their own unique URL that they can share. So I like that anonymity, if that's the right word, that student autonomy. I like that it's customizable for each student. If you notice that 5th grade blog that we looked at, everybody had to have the same look. They could change the picture at the top, but pretty much they had to have the same look because that was what the teacher chose. EduBlogs allows them to each customize it for themselves. EduBlogs does get through the school filter, so there's no worries. You can be doing it at school. Students can be posting and reading each other's blog posts. They can be commenting and have all of that freedom right here at school. The downside is no classroom management. In other words, with the free version, you, the teacher, cannot moderate posts. Kids would be able to post without your approval first. So you would have to set up some kind of a system to where they can't push publish. They can only draft unless you, the teacher, give them approval, and then they can post it. With the $40 premium version, however, you do get that classroom management. So you do have to pay for the classroom management. So with me, I have a setting set to mine where my students, I get to moderate it first. I get to see every single blog post before it goes out on the internet. So I can approve it or talk to them about it. So let's take a quick look at EduBlogs and what that looks like. I'm going to do another screen share. Back out to my browser. So this is my class blog. So I've signed in with EduBlogs. You can create a free account. Just go to edublogs.org. And I set up a class account, and I've paid for the premium version. And with that premium version now, I can see each of my students' blogs right here. So I can see that my student has 5 blog posts up there already. I can see that she has 1 post that she's asked me to approve, so I need to check it out and publish it for her. And she's had several comments, 3 comments on some of her posts. So I can manage, and I can actually click on visit and go to her blog and see what it looks like from that point. Setting it up is relatively easy. Over here on the left side, I have my navigation. So, and students have a similar navigation bar on the left. So if I scroll down here a little bit, you can see that under appearance, I have themes that I can choose, themes and layouts. All these different professional looking blogs, and students can pick any one of these. Students have the exact same options that I do, which is what I like about it. They can customize it. They can add in any kind of picture that they want. They can have it so that, for example, this one has a 3-column layout. They can put widgets on the side. It could be very visual instead, or however they want to look. So they can choose any of these kinds of themes. And then, of course, I've got widgets. So on my blog, I don't have the map shows where people have read, but that's a widget that I could add. Students could add it to their own personal blog as well. So all sorts of different options right there. Under the My Class tab, this is where I would go to manage my students and their blogs. So I can click on Create Student Blogs, add a new blog, and I can create a new user right there. So I can create my student's username. They do have to have an email address, but every student in the district now has a Google email address, so I would just type that in. I can create their password for them, and I can create the URL that I want them to have for their blog, or we can consult with them and even give them a title for their blog. And then just click create. It'll look to see if it's unique username. The system checks to see if it's a unique blog URL. And if everything's unique, then the blog is created. And the students can then log in and start adding posts to their blog. So it's just as easy as that to create blogs. I'm going to go back and show you how to create a post. So I'm going to go to, well, this is my dashboard. And this is where I, the teacher, go. I'm going to need to mute this because I know this is going to get noisy. I've got videos. Oh, good, it's already muted. So this is my dashboard. So I see right here on my screen, my students created videos and posted them on their blogs recently. So I see all those blog posts right here on one screen, and so I can approve them from right here. So I don't have to go to each student's blog, but I do it right here from my single page. And I see I've got 3 posts that I need to approve for my students. I need to look at them first. But let's see what it's like to add a blog post entry. So to do that, I'm going to go up to this new button, click post, and this looks exactly the same for students. So I can create a new post, give it a title. I can type in the information that I want. Tell everybody about it. Notice that I've got basic text formatting options, so I can bold, italicize, I can indent, center text, I can do lists, bullet lists, and numbered lists, and all sorts of formatting like that. I can also, I've got a button to add media, so I can upload videos, I can upload pictures, and just make a classy looking blog post. When it's done, I don't have to do everything all at once. Notice to the right, I've got a button that says Save Draft, so myself or the students can start today, save a draft, and come back tomorrow and finish the blog, typing it up, typing in the information, and when it's finally ready, I'm logged in as me, so I don't see it, but if I were a student, this would say, oh shoot, now I forget the wording, but it says publish to preview, I think is the wording. In other words, it publishes it for just me, the teacher, and I have to go in and actually look at it, and when I approve of it, then I click the publish button and it's out there. But that's how easy it is to do it. You can simply just give it a title and type in the information. If you have kids use like Google Docs for their typing, for their formatting, they can copy paste from there right into here or whatever, or take it from paper and just type it in here directly. So that's EduBlogs. All right, were there any questions about EduBlogs and that platform?
Mark, we had one question from Kimberly. She asked, can blogging be confidential without names shown?
Yes and no. In each of these platforms, that's an excellent question. You know, I talked at the beginning about why you would want to blog, and that's for the authentic audience. So my personal feelings on that is that we want to make it public out there for everybody to see. That's the authentic audience. That's the draw for students, for somebody else seeing it. But if you're uncomfortable with that, each one of the platforms that we're talking about has a feature where it's not viewable to the public. It's only viewable to the class members. And actually, I'm sorry, the free version of EduBlogs wouldn't allow that because that's individual blogs. The paid version, the $40 version with the classroom management, would allow that, so that only other class members can see it. Now, the part of your question where you asked about without the names shown, unfortunately, as soon as you publish a blog, the associated author name is going to be published with it. So if you looked at some of those blogs, we only used first names and maybe last initial, but that name is going to be posted with the blog post, whether it's out there to the public or whether it's just to the class. They are going to see the blog author. So do caution your kids when they create their accounts, or if you create it for them, that you're not using a full name. I hope that answered that question. So that's EduBlogs. Let's look at KidBlog. KidBlog is one of my favorite blogging platforms. The downside with KidBlog is that it is a paid platform. They do have a 30-day trial, so you can take it for a test drive for a month, use it with your kids, and I guarantee you'll probably get hooked. But after that 30 days, you're locked from creating classes or adding students or posting unless you pay $44 a year, which again isn't that inexpensive. That's a really good deal actually. Another thing that I like about KidBlog is that it goes through the writing process, and I'll show you this, but it has features to it that allows the students to do their drafting on KidBlog, and then for you, the teacher, to see that, and then to do revise before you finally do the publishing. So they actually go through the writing process as they get that post ready and created. KidBlog is mobile friendly. There is no iPad app, dedicated app. You simply go to the website and it's formatted nicely and beautifully for mobile devices. So you can use iPads. Kids could even do it on their phone if they're in the upper grades, but it's good for any platform. KidBlog does have class and student accounts. So there is no way for students to have individual student accounts where you, the teacher, have no control. With KidBlog, it is controlled by you, the teacher. You have to create their student accounts. You do have options to where you can moderate their posts or not, so you can choose to read them ahead of time or let students publish without your approval if they have the experience to do that. KidBlog, again, it comes right through the district filter. There's no issues about using it at school or at home. The only downside to me with KidBlog is that there's limited customization. Students can add pictures to their posts, but the actual layout, the theme of the blog, they don't have that control over. That's decided pretty much by you, the teacher. So that's the pros and cons. Good. KidBlog is a really good platform for beginning bloggers and especially for elementary age students because of the simplicity of it and because of the controls that the teacher gets. So let me show you a quick tutorial demo on setting up a KidBlog. All right, this is Mr. Oakton's blogging webinar. He kindly created an account for me so that we could walk through this. Right now we don't have any posts on it, but this was, let me jump over to this other tab. This first one that we looked at today was created with KidBlog, so you can see kind of the layout of that, how it's supposed to look. So as a teacher, I would log into my KidBlog account and I would go to the settings. And I've got these tabs across the top, so I'm going to walk you quickly through each of them. Themes sidebar, this is where I pick my background, my theme for my blog. A lot of choices here, but again, when I pick this, it applies to everybody, all of the kids as well. So they would have the same background, same layout. I've got widgets here on the side where I can provide links. This is an example of a widget where I can provide links to other resources, other websites, maybe that I want kids to always, kind of like bookmarking, but it just provides those links here on the sidebar of the blog. Again, I'm going to see the list of all the members of my blog, so I can click on those different students and go to just their blog posts and see what they have to say. But I can customize that. I can hide some of these. I can change the order. Setting up users is super easy. I can either click the Create Students button and create their name one at a time. I can type in the display name. So this is where I would not type in the whole entire name, Mark Thomas, but I would just do Mark T, or just Mark if you need to, or you can do whatever name you want. You could make up nicknames, however you want to do it. You can assign a password to the students, and yeah, and then just give them that information, give them that login information. If your students are a little more mature, some of the older grades, or you trust them to create their own accounts, you can just use join codes. And you would give the student a code. So if I enabled this code, I would give this code to the students. They would go to kidblog.org and create their own account with their own username and password. And because they've used this join code, they automatically become a part of my class, and I have control of them. But they get to make up their username and their password. So it totally depends on how you'd like to do that. But that's how super easy it is to create your users. Privacy is the tab that most teachers are concerned about. By default, we have settings for posts and for comments. And by default, KidBlog says that students can publish their posts and teachers can see them. Other class members can see them. And if I had connected with another classroom on KidBlog, that class could see the posts. But you'll notice that by default, public is turned off. So with this turned off, students do not have the option. When they post something, nobody else can see it unless they're a member of this KidBlog class. So grandma back in Vermont or New Jersey, wherever she lives, cannot read the blog post because it's not public. So if that's an option that you want, turn it on, and then notice you've got the approval required checkbox underneath. That means that I, the teacher, before it publishes, I get to prove it. I get to look at it and see what it's like. You have those options for posting, and you have those options for commenting. So a lot of teachers like to leave it with the public turned off initially while they get their feet wet and experience blogging, and then once the kids have experienced it for a couple of weeks or a month or so, then turn these on and allow them to publish out to the rest of the world as well. So that's privacy. The others I'm not going to worry too much about. That's some more technical stuff, but let's look at how to do a blog post. So if I go back to my main page, up at the top, I see this big blue button that says New Post. And this is the basic template used for creating a blog post. Notice that the students can click to add a header image. There's some ones included with KidBlog. So they can add any one of these pictures to the top of their blog, several pages worth. They can grab some off the internet that they want to include. They can take a picture if they're on an iPad and include that. So you can add, I guess I should add one just for kicks, shouldn't I? All right, so there's my header image. So again, I add a title. And then I've got the content of my blog post. I can write about anything I want. I can talk about dogs. I can talk about birthday. I had one girl who talked about Valentine's Day. She forgot her Valentine's at home. So she wrote all about how sad she was that day and her experience with that and how everything worked out in the end. They've got basic text formatting, bold, italics. We can change the font color, center things, and so on. They can even change the background color of the blog posts to some degree. But notice up at the top, so let me add. Notice up at the top are buttons for the writing process. So if this is my first draft, I could save it as a draft, and then I, the teacher, would go in and be able to look at it and offer some feedback to the students on that. Turn it back to them, and they would make those adjustments, add detail, add some more information, click review. I, the teacher, then get to check it again before I say, okay, you're ready to publish, and now I turn it over to the kids to publish. And when they click the publish button, notice the options that I have. By default, notice that classmates is highlighted. So this post would only be visible by the other students in this class. If I want it out there for the public, I, the student, have to actually click the public button and click publish. And now this post, if I go back to Mr. Oakton's main page, there's my blog post for everybody to see in the whole world. To add comments, students simply just go to their post, and you can see that you've got a place at the bottom for them they can add a comment on that. So it's just as simple and as easy as that. I love it just because of that writing process and for that simplicity. So that's KidBlog. Any questions about KidBlog? Again, that's a really good one for beginners, for elementary age students, and for teachers just wanting to get their feet wet for seeing how the blogging works. The third platform is Blogger. Blogger is really cool for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's completely free. Every CCSD user has access to Blogger because it's tied to your Google account that every staff member and every student has. Blogger is individual blogs. A minus to it is that there is no classroom management at all. So each student would get their own blog URL that you, the teacher, have no control over. It's highly customizable. They can pick any theme that they want, any format, layout, and there's a ton out there on the internet that they can customize and include. Blogspot is, well, there's two websites with Blogger. There's blogger.com, which is where you go to create your posts. And then there's Blogspot, where the viewers go to actually read your blog. And Blogspot is blocked by the district. So students could get on there and they could create their blogs, but they wouldn't be able to read each other's blogs at school. They would have to go home off the district's filter in order to do that. However, there is another big negative to Blogger. Up until earlier this year, I think just before winter break, it was open to all students to use, except that Blogger and Google changed the terms of service agreement. And now for any school to have Blogger turned on for their students, every single student in that school has to have their parents approve Blogger. And you can see how difficult that would be to get every single parent of every single student to say yes. So the district has just pretty much shut off Blogger for all student accounts. Blogger is still open for teachers, for staff accounts. So teachers can go in and create class blogs, can post information up there. Students would be able to go in and read it and leave comments, but students wouldn't be able to actually do the blogging itself. Blogger is turned off for them. So even with that restriction, it's still available to teachers to use, so you could do a class blog. So I'm still going to show you quickly how you can use it in that sense. So let's jump over to another screen share. And to get into Blogger, all you have to do is go to blogger.com. And oops, let me take you to the main. Yeah, go into blogger.com and you would create your first blog and just give it a name. So I've called this blog Mr. T's Super Blog. Here's all my navigation on the left side. Again, I can change the theme. I have options for changing the theme. I've got all these kinds of options. Some are really cool and fluid. Some are just pretty basic. You can change the layout, how different elements on the screen look. In terms of your navigation, is it at the top? Is it on the side? Do those maps that show visitors show up on the right side? How does it look? That's the layouts. Posting is similar to the other platforms. I click new, I go to my post section and click new posts. I have a post title. I've got my text, my blog body, where I can type in my paragraphs and everything that I want to share. I've got basic text formatting, bold, italics, underline, bullet points. I can insert videos. I can insert links to other websites or information. One feature that I like about Blogger is that it can schedule for the blogs to show up at a certain time. So I can prepare something ahead of time and have it show up on a given day for my students to read. When I've got that, I can save this as a draft, but once I'm done, I would simply click the publish button and it shows up on my blog. So I can go to view my blog. This is the layout, the theme that I picked. Here's entries that I did earlier. Here's the blog post that I just created just now. So pretty simple to use. It's got a lot of power behind it, a lot of customizability. If you go out on the blogs out on the internet and look at different blogs for food shows or clothing or whatever, a lot of them are done with Blogger and highly customizable. But again, keep in mind those restrictions that the district has put on with that. So it may not be a good option for you. All right, so those are the three platforms, KidBlog, EduBlogs, and Blogger. So we've talked a lot about using Blog with your students and giving them that audience and that platform to share their voice, to express themselves, to share their writing. But what about you, the teacher, using blogs for yourself? I actually got my interest with blogging by using it for myself, for my own professional learning. There's many blogs out there that have information. I don't pretend to know everything. There's a lot of good ideas out there, methods for teaching, ideas for activities, things like that. So I use blogging, excuse me, for myself, for my own professional growth. And let me show you a few that I like to use and how I kind of manage that, because there's a ton out there. Actually, let me show you this one. This is actually the person that really got me interested into blogging. A teacher named Pernell Rip. She started out as a 5th grade teacher in Wisconsin, and now she teaches 7th grade reading, I believe. She's actually from Denmark, but teaches here in Wisconsin. And she just had, somehow I came across her blog, Blogging Through the Fourth Dimension. And she just resonated with me. A lot of her teaching philosophies, how she did reward system in class, her classroom management, activities she did with her kids. She blogs with her kids. Even her 7th grade kids, she does a lot of that. And she just resonated with me. And so I've started following her just to see all of her ideas that she has. And she's constantly challenging my thinking and how I do things in class. And so I love reading her blog posts. She doesn't post every day, but when she does, it's always something that I'm interested in reading. So that's just an example of how I, as an adult, use blogging for myself. I use a website called Feedly. It's completely free, and this helps me organize all the blogs that I follow into one place. So I don't have to remember every single blog and keep remembering, oh, check this one out or check that one. I have them in one place on here. So if you look at my navigation bar here on the left side, I have mine grouped by certain categories. So here's some authors. There's 3 authors that I like to follow their blog: Brandon Mull, Jennifer Nielsen, and Marissa Mayer. Whenever they have something on their blog, it shows up here, and I can click on it, and immediately I see it. I don't have to remember to go check out their websites or anything. Technology, I've been a digital learning coach and an ECS for a number of years, and so using technology with education has been a big theme of mine. And so these are all blogs that I follow along to see what other people have, some ideas that they have. This is where I'm not original at all. I'm not creative at all. I get everything I can from these folks. So right now, at a glance, again, I don't have to go out to each one of these and remember. I see that this website called Comfortably 2.0, he's got one post out there that I haven't read, a new one. So I can click on that, and immediately I see it, green screen ideas. I'm big into that. I want to check this out later, so I can click on that and open it up. But I didn't have to go out searching for that. It came to me. So I've grouped some by technology. I'm into running, so I've got a couple of running blogs that I like to follow. iPads, how other teachers are using iPads in their schools. I've got about 17 different blogs that I follow, from a kindergarten teacher, how he uses iPads in his classroom, to some other teachers that do that. So just a lot of good blogs out there. Now that I'm back in the classroom, I've got some 4th grade classes that I absolutely love how they do things, and so I'm following them and getting all sorts of ideas. So it's a great way for me as an educator to grow as well. It's not, blogging isn't just for students, it's for me as well. So I highly encourage you, if you haven't ever experienced blogging, to at least go out there, and check out some blogs on the internet, search a topic that you're interested in, and start following some of those blogs and get some of those ideas. The site that I use, that I was just showing you how I organized everything, is called Feedly, Feedly, feedly.com. And again, it's completely free. You just create a free account and then start adding the URL for those different blogs to it, and it just shows up all in one location. So I believe that's all the information. That's a ton that I've just shared with you. Are there any other questions out there? Something that may have caught your attention that I was talking about you want more clarification on?
Again, the question was asked what the name of that site was for managing your what you follow, and that was Feedly.
Feedly.com. I'm going to put it in the chat. I just put it in the chat.
Let's give Mark a big round of applause. I told you he knew everything about blogging. Thank you so much, Mark.
You bet. It's a fun activity, I promise you. Your kids will actually love doing it.